Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us. We're excited to have you guys here on this, semi-cloudy, but I heard it's going to get sunny Friday. We're really stoked that you guys are here for Campfire & Co.'s third workshop within this 4-part series. Today we're talking about SEO and Squarespace. Thanks so much for everybody who's already in the chat. If you guys want to introduce yourself, maybe say who you are, what business you're representing, maybe drop a link or Instagram handle. We can follow each other and engage. I've got Lauren Stewart and John with me here. Lauren is one of Campfire's co-founders, and she's going to hang out in the chat today. And I think we have a couple other Campfire team members over in the chat as well. And then John is one of our lead graphic designers, and he's going to also be in the chat, but then he'll pop in back at the end and help me do some Q&A. Just to get a couple, housekeeping things in order. If you guys haven't used Crowdcast, for sure, chat during the conversation. Love to see some interaction, some like high fives or thumbs up. Make sure you guys are enjoying it and following along. You can ask questions there, or you can use as a little ask a question kind of button at the bottom. If you want to type questions in there throughout the conversation, we'll circle back to all of those at the end of the call and answer all of those live for you. And you guys can add more too at the end as well. And lastly, there is a little green button too at the bottom that says workshops, sign up and replay. So we've got one more workshop after this week we'll do next Friday. We're going to talk about MailChimp and sort of design and getting your brand really awesome through your new email newsletters. So you guys can sign up for that one. And then we also have recorded all of these workshops, and they are on YouTube, and the links are in that same blog post down there. So instead of where it would say RSVP, it just says watch the replay. You can hop over and watch the replay. Share that with your rest of your team if there's a particular workshop you liked a lot. All right. John, Lauren, thank you guys for hopping on and saying hello. If you guys want to pop off, we will go ahead and get started. Perfect. Just really getting this technology down, guys. This has been great. Okay, I'm going to make this screen a little bit bigger so you guys can see what we're up to. All right, let's get going. Before we dive into the meat of our conversation today, I wanted to briefly introduce, for anybody who's not familiar, who Campfire is. We are a design studio that specializes in brand strategy, graphic identities, websites, and interior design for creative businesses. We are in our 8th year of business, and we are proudly headquartered here in Richmond and safely working from the comfort of our homes lately, as I'm sure the rest of you guys are too. We have a team of 6 designers and strategists across the disciplines of interior design, graphic design, web design, and marketing. Our team is hyper collaborative, really motivated by snacks. We've been talking about what everybody's eating for lunch today. But we are really missing sitting next to each other and working together, as I'm sure a lot of you guys are right now too. If you're not very familiar with who Campfire is locally, I just wanted to see if maybe you guys had interacted with a couple of the brands that we had worked on here. Perhaps you have applied for an artist grant through CultureWorks, or maybe you've donated to Feed More's hunger relief efforts. Perhaps you stay up to date on the latest with the Richmond experience, or maybe you've engaged in some self-care moments at Lucid Living. These, amongst some others, are really some awesome brands that Campfire has had the pleasure of helping shape and create and build over the past couple years. So now that you know a little bit more about us, let's dive into this workshop. Just to make sure you guys remember where you're at, today we are talking about SEO basics for Squarespace. Before we dive into the tactics, I want to make sure that everybody understands what search engine optimization, or SEO, is. I'm sure everybody has kind of their own particular understanding or definition of this, but I found one recently that I liked a lot and I wanted to share. SEO is anything you do to make your website more attractive to search engines. I really like this definition because its author, Matt Callahan, puts a lot of emphasis on the anything you do, right? Meaning SEO can be a bigger conversation than just keywords and phrases. So what does that mean? What else can SEO include? Tactics can include your on-site SEO, meaning the built-in Squarespace options, like the ones we're going to talk about today. It can include linking, meaning linking to your own content from page to page throughout your site, linking out to other sites, and also other sites linking back to you. It includes your content, meaning the actual words and paragraphs and information on each page of your site. And it includes keywords. So thinking about those specific words and phrases that your audience is using when they go to Google or to another search engine to find you on the internet. Some of the less obvious, but still really important tactics of SEO include your social media. So social is also considered your online presence, right? It's also searchable, and it plays a role in linking your audience from some other platform to your website. Videos or other types of content, Vimeo, YouTube, all of that, you're basically creating content and it's getting indexed, it's getting searched, and it's linking back to your website. And finally, any other content you create that someone else engages with and it leads back to your site is all included in SEO, right? So for Campfire, we mostly focus on creating great content that leads our audience and followers, whether that's on social or someone else, like through our email newsletter, to our website. We do utilize and update the basic on-site SEO features that Squarespace allows, but really our bigger strategy relies on generating super interesting and relevant content that draws people in. So that means we're kind of being a little bit more proactive with our approach to SEO than just hoping the right client finds us on Google. We're really creating the content we want our audience to be, that we think our audience is interested in, and then we're putting it out there and telling people to come over to the site. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself, so let's dive into how you can get started, and then we'll expand on some of these tactics. Getting started with SEO. We are talking about Squarespace basic features. That's right, we're saying it again. Start by writing a few goals. So if you've been to a couple of the other workshops, you'll know that we just really feel like it's super important to begin any type of marketing project thinking about your audience and what you want out of them. For SEO, your goals can include a number of leads or sales per month. So you could use those like specific sales metrics or the number of leads that you're getting per month. Let's say you want to get 5 inquiries a month because you have a 50% hit rate on inquiries and you need at least 2.5 clients to sign a contract per month, right? So that could help you get a number of leads per month goal. You could create a goal based on growth and traffic. Maybe you just want overall over the course of a year or a quarter or something for your traffic to grow 5%, 10%, whatever it is. You could create a goal based on hits or leads from a specific source. So maybe you want more engagement or more traffic coming from your Instagram or a specific social channel that you've been working hard on. Finally, you could just have a goal that maybe is starting out by reviewing your analytics on a more regular basis, right? It can be a little intimidating to start to engage with some of the data that our website and, other online platforms give us, but maybe just creating a goal of, I'm going to look at it quarterly and I'm going to see what I can learn by just tracking it a little bit more frequently. It's small, but on the right, you can see some of Campfire's metrics on our traffic sources. So this is directly in a screenshot that I've taken from our analytics section in Squarespace. So you guys all have access to this too if you have a Squarespace site. We get a lot of direct traffic. That's our topic. That's our number one traffic source. So that is really someone just directly typing in our URL. That's about 40%. Next biggest is searching. So mostly our search is folks just searching our business name, Campfire & Co. And that comes from just building brand awareness. Social media is next at 17%. I'm feeling pretty good about that. We do a lot on our social to encourage folks to come to our website. But after that, we've got referral traffic at right around 4%. So as one of my lowest traffic sources, this could be a potential opportunity to create a goal, right? I could look into doing more guest blog posts. Like I could see there's some folks here from the Spark Mill and from Apple Cart and some of our friends who we know have awesome blogs, and wondering maybe I should be reaching out to them and saying, should we do some guest posting or some cross promoting on our blogs? That will be something that might help increase my traffic source from referrals. So that could be something that you guys utilize to start creating some goals. All right, now that you've got a couple goals in mind, we're going to start by confirming all of the site-wide SEO options in Squarespace. These are the options that are going to apply to your entire website. The options that Squarespace will give you for site-wide SEO are your site title and tagline, your site's description, your location and hours, and your custom domain. You'll see here kind of next to my bullet points, I've got in parentheses like design, arrow, logo, and title. I'm talking about where this lives on Squarespace. So on the right side, you'll see my little screenshot. When you log into your Squarespace dashboard, these are the different areas you can go on your site. Instead of going directly into pages where all of your content lives, going into the design, marketing, and settings sections are going to give you access to these different areas that you can update your SEO. Let's take a peek at what that looks like. Okay, there's a lot on here, but we're going to talk you through it, all right? So on the left-hand side, if you go into the design tab or the design section of Squarespace and then click into logo and title, it's going to give you these options here to add a site title and a tagline. I'm being pretty sort of straightforward with my site title. It's my business name. You could also add something more descriptive there. Let's say you are a product-based business and you want to title your site Sustainable Leather Goods, something like that. And then you also have an option for a tagline. These are just two things, really easy. Make sure you've got some pointed, helpful, straightforward information there. Next up in your marketing section, there is a tab called SEO. This is going to give you access to see basically if someone were to Google your site, there's kind of like a visual there where you see like Campfire & Co. in blue and then campfireandco.com in green. It's giving you an example of what it's going to look like on a search engine when someone searches for you. And then there's a little section down at the bottom there that says SEO site description. This is a great place for you to put a descriptive, keyword-rich description of your business. You can use, I think it gives you about 300 characters and it will tell you how many you're using down there. But that is a great place to just add that information. You kind of set it and forget it. If you update your services over time, you can always come back to that, but make sure that you've got something helpful written there. Next up in the settings section, make sure that you have your business information filled out. You can include a phone number, a contact email, a physical location, as well as hours. I don't have a phone number included because I don't really want to promote a phone number for Campfire, but especially if you're a brick and mortar business or you're someone that has an office phone, then absolutely your phone number should be here. Contact email, same with that, and address. This is really, really important for brick and mortar businesses. Let's say you have like a restaurant or a retail store. You really want to make sure this stuff is here because Google Maps will pick up on a lot of this. And then the last one, this is pretty probably obvious or straightforward, but a custom domain will increase your ranking and search results. So if for some reason you've been using the .squarespace for a little while, you haven't been ready to get that custom domain, I would really encourage you to do that. That's really helpful for search engine results. Okay, that's it, guys. We've done all of the site-wide SEO options. Now we're ready to dive into the page-specific options. On each page, you have a number of options that you can input information. You've got page names, page descriptions, URL slugs, image names, file names, and heading styles. All of these can be found in the Pages section of your dashboard. So previously we were in design and marketing and settings. This time we're going directly into our pages. So this is probably where you would spend most of your time in Squarespace anyways, because this is where all of your content lives. So you click that pages section, and now I'm going to take a look at what this really looks like once you get in there. So once you're in your pages section, you find the page you want to work on. And if you hover over it, it's going to give you that little gear icon to the right of the page name. This is going to open up your page settings. Now we have a couple different options where we can add in some important SEO pieces. Under that general area within this page settings, we can add a page title. I like to start by keeping the title descriptive. So you can see this is my services page and I'm titling it just services dash. And then I have some additional keyword phrases that I think folks might be using to find me. Next up, we've got the URL slug. So this is basically just the words that are going to be written in that top URL. Some people like to add a little bit more descriptive language here. For my main pages, I like to keep this pretty straightforward, but when I get into blogs, I definitely customize my URLs to be more searchable. Finally, at the bottom there, you'll see there's an opportunity to add a page description. So this is my services page. So I've added a description here that describes our services. For those descriptions, you want to keep your characters between 50 and 300. I think that Squarespace will probably stop you at 300, but just in case. And you want to make sure you're optimizing those descriptions with your keywords and phrases. But try to think about it from your user's perspective. Don't just put a ton of keywords in there that don't make sense together. Write a sentence that might answer a question that someone's asking. For example, how does your site, your page, or your product solve their problem? Next up, within your page settings, there is also an SEO section. This gives you another opportunity to look at how the page looks in search engine results, and then you can add an alternative title or description based on what you see there. So for me, when I was working on this earlier today and yesterday, seeing that just the word services in the top of that kind of preview of my search result, I realized, maybe it would make sense to add the word design in front of services because they're specifically related to, our services are specifically related to design. So I've adjusted my title here to say design services first and then list out some of those services. And then I've taken that same description I had on the other general section and I've added it here into my SEO description. This section of SEO title and description will supersede the general ones, but I don't really think there's any reason not to do both. So I tend to do both. But I just want to make sure that you guys at least fill out one of those for each of your main pages on your site. This is a really simple built-in opportunity. Next up, images and files. This is a super, super easy thing to do, but it can get a little monotonous, especially if you're just building out your website and you're having to do this across every page. You've got a lot of images or you've got a portfolio of imagery. It can get a little monotonous, but after you put the time and effort into it, you'll only have to do this every once in a while. Rename your images and files to be descriptive and searchable. You can definitely add keywords and phrases in here, but you do want to make sure that you're probably still being a little descriptive of what is in the image. This is also helpful for sort of accessibility of websites. So if there's someone looking at your site that maybe has a visual impairment, they will be sort of reading the internet differently than other folks. And your file name helps create alt text, which is basically just a word description of your images. So that's just something to keep in mind. When you're changing a file name, the nice thing about Squarespace is when you upload the photo, it's going to include whatever file name you originally had in your file system. But what you can do is change the name of that file right here in Squarespace. So you don't have to change all your file names before. You can just do it as you upload the image or after and then edit the image. You can also rename files after uploading them. So just click on those three little dots to the right. This is like I'm creating a link and I'm linking to my file. I can see other files that I've already uploaded there. And then there's three little dots and all I have to do is click those dots and then there's an option to rename that file. Again, give your file a nice searchable but descriptive name if you want people to find your files. If you don't want people to find your files, then maybe don't do that. But I think it is just another way that you can layer in opportunities for people to find you in different ways. Finally, in page-specific options here, we want to encourage you to use your heading styles. So search engines really look for easy skimming and pick up headings and heading styles before body copy. If you have a well-designed website, you are probably already using heading styles throughout your site, but it can be good to go back and double check, what language am I actually using in my heading styles? Is there enough language here that is using the right keywords that my audience is looking for? You just want to do a double check on that. So this is a screenshot of our services page, and you can see that I've got branding and web design written in that heading 1 style. Next up, I'm using my heading 3 style to get a little bit more descriptive, also using additionally some keywords there. And then my body style is used to give a little bit more description about the service. So there's a really nice hierarchy there in terms of the words that I think people might be searching for, but also information, a nice hierarchy of information in terms of actually explaining what we do. So it's a good win-win. Okay, so now we've taken advantage of the site-wide and the page-wide features that the SEO features that Squarespace offers. The final thing I want to have you guys keep in mind is that there's a big picture marketing strategy of all of this. Successful SEO is more than just keywords and good image names. It's really about making super high quality content on your website. Content that answers your audience's questions and is engaging and interesting to them. So let's do a final review of some things to consider. Do you know what your audience is looking for? Do you have an idea of what they're searching for when they are looking for a service like yours or a product like yours? Have you asked them? That's a great thing to do in feedback surveys. I have to give credit to Amber, a friend of mine who runs a company, Brand Individuation, that she has taught me a lot about using feedback surveys to mine for keywords that my audience uses or my clients use. Also, have you looked at competitor sites? What do you see your competitors doing and how are they explaining their services? And is your audience finding that engaging? Next step, is your content answering those questions? Do you attempt to make your user feel more at ease or feel like they've really figured something out after they've been to your site? Or is the site confusing them a little bit? These are really important aspects to whether or not your content is quality. Next up, does each page have all of the relevant content it needs? So is your page's content too short? Is it too long? Is it written with your audience's questions and interest in mind? This is a really important aspect of making sure that your content relates to your audience and that it's relevant and all there. Finally, is your website a resource for your audience? So when you think about what your potential clients or customers are looking for that is related to your industry, is your website a resource for that information? Are you allowing them to want to come back again and again because you are answering their questions and helping them figure stuff out? As much as you care about your audience, so does Google and search engines, right? They want to make sure that your website is helping people understand stuff. And the more that you can do that, the more you will rank higher on search results. Last up, are you actually pushing traffic to your site as well as relying on Google and search engines? The thing about search engines is that they are super, super competitive, right? So we as small and mid-tier, medium-sized businesses, we're competing against huge, large corporations that have millions of dollars to spend on SEO. So there's no way we can always rank the way we want to. So we really have to go out and proactively find our audience and engage with them and then push them back to our website. Additionally, there's no way to weed out bad leads from SEO. So we don't want to put so much emphasis on getting that random Googler to find us. We want to think more about who is our audience, how can I go out and find them and make sure that they know how to get to me. If anything, I hope that some of these big picture items might help take the pressure off of SEO. it's sort of all part of a bigger strategy that helps our potential clients and customers be able to find us on the internet. And SEO is a role in that strategy, but it's certainly not the only piece. And oftentimes it's not even necessarily the most important piece, depending on your service, your industry, and your audience. Okay, before we go, I wanted to quickly mention a little bonus bit. Yes, blogging is good for SEO, and it is great for creating high quality content that engages your audience. I'm sure you've heard this before. Blogging is good for SEO, but here are some important reminders as to why. Blogging increases your visibility and it adds engaging content to your site. So one of the great things about writing a blog is that it expands the topic of conversation that you can have on your website. So if we didn't have a blog, Campfire would mostly talk about our services, maybe our process, our team, and our projects, right? But on our blog, we get to expand that to all types of other conversations that our audience of businesses might be interested in. So we can talk about resources they might need. We can talk about other businesses they might want to engage with. We can feature new things they might want to do around town. I mean, the ideas are endless for types of things that we could talk about that is beyond our services, giving them really interesting quality content to come back and engage with. So Google really finds this attractive when you are putting quality content on there, and it also increases the size of your website, which is another thing that search engines find attractive. Blogs also mean new content. So again, this is something that search engines are looking for, that you have an active website that is being updated often. It also increases the number of internal and external links that your site has. So when you are writing a blog post and you link to other pages on your site, or you link out to other folks' websites, that is something that combines to show Google, hey, this is a good website. You should look at this because there's a lot of links coming to this. It also gives other folks a reason to link back to you because you're sharing a resource again. Blogs also showcase your expertise. This is a little bit more indirect when thinking about SEO, but it is an important benefit. Building your reputation as a leading expert in your field is great for marketing as well as SEO. Just as your audience wants to know you're an expert in your field, so does Google. So like I was saying before, Google really cares about your audience just as much as you do. So if you're really focused on creating content for them, Google is going to see that and respond. Finally, having a blog gives you a really easy reason to invite your audience back to your website. So having something new to share, whether that's a resource, a story, a video, whatever, it gives me a reason to say, hey guys, we did something really cool. We pulled it together, we did this, and we did it for you. Why don't you come check it out, right? And then I'm asking my audience to come take a look at something I've created that's on my site. It pulls people over to the place that I want them to be. Hopefully they hang out a little bit longer. They might check out some other stuff. They might be reminded of who we are and what we do. Okay, so that was a lot. I think we did exactly 30 minutes, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. But I would love to hear what questions you guys have. I'm going to pull John back in here. Or John, actually, I think you just maybe want to turn your video back on and then I can pop you back in. Perfect. And then I'm going to unfocus the screen real quick. And let us know if you guys in the right have any questions in the chat, or we'll sort of start with that ask a question poll at the bottom.
Yeah, we got a question in the chat while you were presenting from Lisa. She says, do you need to do SEO on every section of an index page on Squarespace?
I think that's a good question. Because the built-in SEO features of Squarespace are pretty simple and straightforward, I would say there's no reason not to, right? We're not having to do a ton of custom coding. It's not asking us for a really difficult process or something. So if you're going to engage in this, I would probably start high level. I would start with your main navigation and those main pages of your site. And then if you want to take the time, maybe you kind of parse it out or give yourself a timeline of, I'll start here with these main pages. And then next week, I'll dive further into my index pages. And then the following week, I'll go into my portfolio and I'll retitle every single image I have. I think there's kind of a hierarchy. So I'd start with your most important pages and then move down the scale. Do you have to? No, you don't have to do any of it. But I think if you want to invest in some SEO effort, it would make sense to just go ahead and do all of it, I would say.
Yeah, search engines will index those. Sorry, this is a repetitive term. They're called index pages on Squarespace, but what search engines do is also index pages to find them on search engines. But they will index those index pages, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you might as well do the SEO. Our next question comes from Barb, asking, how often should you refresh your copy and SEO?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Let me think. I think some of that has to do with your industry and your offerings. If you're not getting, and your goals, right? If you're not getting the traffic that you want, then that might be a moment to reevaluate some of your SEO. I would say Campfire probably does like a larger update to our website in general, maybe quarterly, in terms of updating case studies. We do more often updating with like our blog, but when it comes to bigger stuff like case studies and maybe the images on our homepage, some things like that, I do think that it's important to make sure your website feels fresh over time. I would probably start more on a content basis. So let's say you've had the same 5 images on your homepage for 3 years. I would say that's probably more important to like refresh that element than to really dig into the exact keywords you're using on each page. Unless you've, let's say, like launched a new product or launched a new service. If none of that stuff is in your SEO, then that might be a good time to refresh those sort of built-in options.
Yeah. Taylor asks, for naming files on a photography business website, images can be of the client for a gallery, for example. So you'd have a gallery for each client and the file names would be representative of that. How would I name those files, and is it okay to be repetitive in those file names?
I would say, yeah, if it's something you're delivering to a client and it's not necessarily a public area, I wouldn't worry too much about the file names. If it's kind of a gallery on your website of these are editorial photos that I've taken for magazines, I would title those in a way that might sort of expand your search. So one of the things I like to do with our client imagery on our photo is make sure I have the client's name as well as like whatever service it was, because oftentimes what clients will do is say, oh, I really liked the design of that website. And somebody will search, the Holly Fund website design. And I want my website to show up because I did that work. So I think that's the approach I would take to it, having some type of client name in there and then maybe what service you did. I think it would depend on how many photos, if you're talking about like 10 photos, maybe you can get a little bit more unique in the naming. But if it's like 150 photos, I wouldn't like belabor making every photo a different image name.
Yeah, and usually those, if you get photography done and a photographer is sharing a link to your portfolio of, that photo session or something like that, it's password protected. And I think there are certain restrictions on like SEO indexing password protected parts of websites and things like that. Like they can't go into them. So your file naming is a little less important beyond that password protected portfolio that you're sharing with somebody. Or
for sure. And even in Squarespace, there is a way to have a page not be indexed. So if you have something on your site that you're working on, it maybe is live, it's not linked anywhere, but you don't really want anybody to be able to Google it and find it. That's a page setting that you can just turn off and say, hide this from search engines. So that's something where, we have a couple pages on our site that we use to send to specific types of clients that we don't really want the general Google searcher to find. So that's a good feature sometimes to do if you are actually don't search this.
Right. Our next question comes from Rachel. Does Squarespace have its own blog to link, or what platform works best with Squarespace?
Blog to link. I think you mean can you do a blog on Squarespace? Is that the question? Am I hearing that right, John?
Yeah.
Okay. Rachel says yes. Yeah, you can blog within Squarespace. I will say, if you're used to a really robust, WordPress blogging platform, there might, or sort of like a more specific blogging platform, there might be some functionality features that you don't love as much, but absolutely you can create a blog in Squarespace. We use it all the time for clients. We have a Squarespace blog on our site, and it is actually a super kind of multi-functionary feature because you can use it for lots of different things, not even just blogs. It allows you to kind of create a section of content that you can then include summaries of all around your website. So you can blog within Squarespace. It gives you the option to add tags, to add categories, which I would absolutely encourage you do. It also gives you the option to add sort of like descriptions and thumbnail photos. I mean, everything that a typical blog does, Squarespace can mostly do. And it's a pretty good user experience on the back end. So you can do all of that within Squarespace as well as build out your full site.
Yeah, I'll also add to the blogging platform within Squarespace. Also, there are SEO features for each post too. There's a whole tab within there if you choose to explore it in SEO, and you can change the page description of a blog post specifically if you're trying to get that page higher up in search results specifically and trying to direct traffic to that specific page and things like that. And then you can also add tags and categories, which are all descriptors that will get indexed in search engines.
Sarah just made a really good point in the chat that they have a blog and that they've used COVID as a tag for some of their blog posts. And then they created a separate page just for those blog posts. They use that tag to pull in a summary of just the COVID posts. That's a great example of using your blog and kind of capitalizing on the tag category feature.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like this question. This is from, I apologize if I'm saying your name incorrectly, Jessian. How descriptive is too descriptive in a title or header?
In a title of a page, I would say in a title of a page, you don't want to go too crazy. I probably put like no more than 10 or so words. I'm sure there's a maximum amount of characters that you can use. For a heading, I guess, does that mean a heading in like in your copy? Maybe.
Perhaps, yeah. Let's assume.
Yes. And, okay. Yes, in the chat.
I know header text is prioritized over like paragraph text in search engine optimization. So your headers are super important. I wouldn't want them to be like long sentences by any means, but like very like 3 or 4 words, I think, is ideal for like headings on paragraphs in content wise.
I would say Campfire probably flexes that a little bit, though. I mean, if you were to poke around our website, and some of that is because sometimes I will choose basically design aesthetic over my SEO goals, you know, and I think that you just sort of have to balance what are your goals. And for me and for Campfire, we equally care about the overall look of the site as much as I care about the SEO. So, and, you know, I think you can kind of, there's a balancing act too with like how nuanced and quirky you want to get with your language, right? So some of our headings on some of our pages will be a little bit less descriptive because I want to show more brand personality with my language. But, you know, if you are an online jewelry store and you rely very heavily on people finding you on the internet, then being more descriptive and straightforward might be a bigger goal for you. I hope that answers that.
Yeah. That's all the questions we've received so far. Please feel free to add more if you have any more questions.
Yeah, thanks so much, Barb, and for saying that, and for everyone else for hanging out in the chat and talking with us. It was really great to have an opportunity to share this with you guys. This has been a really, really fun series for us. We have one more workshop in the 4-pack, and that is going to happen next Friday. We're going to talk about email newsletters and MailChimp and really showcasing your brand through newsletters. So there's a little green button down there that will take you over to RSVP for that workshop. And it will also give you an option to watch the replays, and we'll add this one as a replay as well. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Thanks, John. Thanks everybody else. Have a good Friday, you guys. Enjoy the weekend. I hear it's supposed to be sunny. All right. Bye.
Bye.